Fred talks fighting.
Perfect. There
The
we
legend.
go. This is Fred Beck from Fred Talks
Oh, we're
Fighting.
going right into it. There's no hello. There's no how are you. There's
No,
no
I always go to I
forward.
always go straight in, Ariel, because then I feel
Holy
then
smokes.
you. Well, how do you normally do with your guests?
Oh, hey, how are you? It's nice to see you. Thanks for doing it. How's your day go? I don't know, just a little chit chat. Wow, you're all business, huh?
Wow,
Okay.
you're
All right.
already grilling me already.
No, listen, I just it's your show. So if sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the intro there. Please go ahead.
No, I always like it. Because then it feels more natural if you say, "Oh, how's it going?" and then you repeat the same question on Zoom.
Sure.
They
No,
repeat
listen,
themselves.
you're the
That's why I've always
pro.
found it dodgy.
You're
But
the
how are
pro. Go
you?
ahead.
How are you?
I'm doing great. No, I want to hear the intro. I want to get the real experience.
This is Fred Beck from Fred Talks Fighting. I'm joined over Zoom by the legend himself, Ariel Hawani. Ariel, how's it going?
It's going great, Fred. What a legend you are. It's great to have this opportunity. It's great to be here. I'm a big fan, by the way. You sent the tweet out, and I was like, oh, I know who Fred Talks Fighting is with the red jumper and the Slim Shady hairstyle. So fair play, as they say. Well done to you, my man. It's great to be on with you.
I do appreciate you. I was very surprised. So you've even heard of the channel before. That's crazy to me.
Of course. By the way, I'm very hip. I'm very tapped into the influencer game. I know all the players. Me and Gideon had a bit of a thing recently, so we're on, the outs right now. But you're doing a great job. And correct me if I'm wrong, 16, 17?
I started when I was 16. I'm now 19, so I'm getting on a little bit now.
Okay, well, I mean, you're a grizzled veteran at this point. 19, you're in there with the microphone, doing your thing. I mean, interviewing these guys, you're unflappable out there. I love to see it. So keep going. It's a great thing to see.
I appreciate it. It's no one really kind of bigger in the combat sports world with for interviews regarding yourself. When you kind of think about it, yeah, you are number one. What's that like?
I don't know. I don't really consider myself number one. I've just been here for a while, and I've worked really hard, and I've tried to make a name for myself, and I've tried to be professional and courteous and gracious and appreciative of the time that people have given me. But I was a guy who wanted to study broadcast journalism, who wanted to be a broadcaster, and I was a big combat fan. In addition to the traditional sports, basketball, baseball, football, etc. And I realized that in MMA, no one was really covering it like the other sports. And so I thought that there was a path there, no different, by the way, than someone like yourself who sees this influencer boxing world, which is its own path, and you probably saw an opening there to get noticed. So very smart what you've done, and I was the same just a long time ago, back in 2001, when I told my parents I wanted to be the Howard Cosell of MMA.
I guess now I think of it, we've kind of gone similar paths. So I've been there for the very start of influencer boxing, and where people were thinking, "Oh, how's it gonna do? Will it say pay-per-views? Will it be a thing? Will it be around for the next year? Will it shut down? Will it end?" But you in the same position I'm in now, at the start of your career, where people were talking about MMA, and they were saying, "Oh, this is not even legal in some states. It's not. You can't even put this stuff on pay-per-view." So I guess we kind of I guess it's it's a certain word for Ariel, but it's where you're in the same position, but obviously you're at this position like 30 years ago.
Yes, 30 years ago. I'm not that old, bro. I
Oh,
mean,
my
come
sorry.
on. Jeez, Louise. I'm only, what are you, 19? I'm 21 years older than you. So I started in 2001 is when I went to college. My first job in all of this was 2000, believe
Mhm.
it or not. So how old were you in 2000?
I wasn't even born.
Fuck! That is
You're not
horrible.
helping yourself here.
No, 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 no. I was on a radio show called In the Ring. It was actually a pro wrestling radio show, and I loved it. And yeah, the UFC was only 8.5 years old when I was in my first year of university. And there's obviously been a lot of ups and downs, but I just, I knew the sport would be, I obviously don't know what it's going to become, but now it's as mainstream as it gets. It's so popular here and in the UK and all over the world. It's been really fun to cover something sort of like on the ground floor. And I never say that I was, a trailblazer, a pioneer. People want to say that, but that's not true because there were people that were covering it well before I was. There were people that were covering it before it was even a thing, like before the UFC was a thing, when it was just, shoot fighting in Japan. But it has been a lot of fun, and yeah, if you want to say that you're kind of in the same boat some 20 years later, then God bless.
But I noticed at the start of this conversation, you said you went to university. What were you studying? Like, so you did broadcast journalism, kind of that
Yeah,
route.
yeah, yeah. That's what I
Right. So I've
studied.
just dropped out of university my first year
Oh,
because
why?
I was away so much with these events. I didn't have any time to do the work.
No, I get it. Did you consult with your parents?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, were they okay with it?
Um, I think because I've got my own, I guess the business is a business, photo
Yeah.
fighting, and it's sustainable. I can make a living. They were comfortable with it.
Listen, at the end of the day, I think that you have you're like the top 1%, right? There are kids, and you remind me of myself because I knew I wanted to be a broadcaster when I was 12. And I'm sure, you're only 19, so this isn't something that just came to you. Like we said, you started when you were 16. So there are some kids who need a little more time to figure out what they want, and they use college as that time to figure out what they want. You already know. And so I'm not going to sit here and say you made a mistake. In fact, I have learned things as a result of being in college, but the diploma itself has never gotten me any job. It's kind of been a connection, and you meet people that went to the same school, and there's lessons that I learned, but ultimately you'll be just fine. And there are countless people who don't have college degrees who have been some of the most successful people of all time. So you're the top 1%, and you should, acknowledge that and appreciate that. And if this is your path, everyone's journey is different. And if you feel comfortable, and if you feel like this is something that that you can succeed in, and you don't have to fall back on anything, then go for it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I
Don't let
appreciate.
anyone write your story. You know what I mean? This is your life, this is your journey. And if you feel like there's nothing that can replicate or duplicate passion, emotion, like that to me is the engine. And if you have passion for this, passion, what I mean by that is like you stay up till 4 a.m. uploading videos, doing interviews, chasing big names, and I see you doing that, and you're out scooping and you're beating other older people to the punch, then F it. Like what do you need to be in some like economics class for? Go out there and keep kicking ass.
That's true. We have had a few kind of all-nighters or 5 a.m. rises or staying up all night. That would have been funny if you're like, Fred, I'm gonna be honest with you, you messed up there. Imagine like
No,
that
no,
would
no,
be
no.
quite
You'll be
funny.
fine. But do you just want to stick with influencer boxing, or do you want to
Well,
branch out?
it started off branching out is always a smarter option. Well, I'll tell you about myself. It started off doing the hardcore boxing, just doing the normal professional boxing. So I did that for about 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years, obviously, kind of not earning a penny, kind of doing it for the love of it because I love boxing so much. But then there's so many other channels do boxing interviews, professional boxing interviews. And everyone is always telling me, because I was quite young, 16, 17, going to all the shows, kind of the Queensbury promotion shows, the matchroom shows, the press conferences. And I'd always ask for advice, and I still do. And everyone always says to me, Fred, you need to find your niche, whether it's being a little bit quirky or I guess the Schmo, he's found his niche, you found yours. But it's very, very hard to find a niche and crack it. But then influence boxing came along, and when you interview lots of boxers, sometimes it can be a little dry. But when you interview any influence boxer, they've always got something to say. They're always very entertaining, and I genuinely really, really enjoy doing it. Um, and I do interview like boxers from time to time and MMA fighters from time to time. But kind of my end goal, my kind of game plan is carry on doing the Fred's Fighting channel. And when it gets about we're about 84,000 subscribers, it's not really too many. It's not even 100K yet. When it gets about the 250 to 300K subs, then I'll start a podcast on another channel and kind of like a Joe Rogan sort of style podcast. But I don't want to do that yet because I don't feel like I'm mature or grown enough to do that podcast yet. I'm gonna leave it a few like 3, 4 more, 5 more years until I do it. And then it'll be easier to transfer kind of the fan base and following from the Fred's Fighting channel to the Fred's podcast channel. That's kind of the end goal.
Well, I love that you have a plan and a vision. If that's what you feel is the best plan and vision, then go for it. I would just say, don't like you are your niche, like you are your gimmick. Don't play a character. You have a very like you have a very recognizable look and demeanor and way of speaking. Like don't change any of that. Be exactly who you are, because it's hard to keep that up. It's hard to continue to play a character. That will get tiresome over time. So whatever you are doing, keep it up. And I would say that you're selling yourself short. You could start a podcast now, and I don't think that there are a lot of people who you ask good questions, and you have a great demeanor, and you also have a great um backstory because you're so young, so you look at things through a different lens. So you could start it now. And actually been very surprised that no one, I do the MMA hour. No one in boxing, I feel like, has replicated that model where, like, the Monday after, you get multiple guests, you get the promoters, you get the coaches, you get the manager. Like, it's right there, and no one has done that in boxing. I've been very surprised. Maybe you'll be that guy, and I would wish you the best doing that. Maybe you'll be that guy in influencer boxing, but don't sell yourself short. You don't need to wait, in my opinion, 4 or 5 years. I think you can do it whenever you want. You don't need to hit a certain number, because you might develop a different fan base right away with that other show and putting it all together. And you seem to know a lot of people in the space as well. So, if that's what your heart wants, then go for it. But don't feel like you need to wait to a certain point in order to do that.
Okay, that's really interesting. Well, I'd have the podcast about anything, so it wouldn't be a certain niche as in fighting
Got
or
it.
influencers. It'd be actors, it'd be everyone in total. So it wouldn't be
Okay.
like a certain point, if you get what I
Uh,
mean.
yeah, no, I get it. It's basically the Fred Beck show, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah, I guess so.
I
um,
love it.
but for yourself though, how long do you see all this influence boxing going on for? Do you see the longevity? I'm curious about your opinion on it.
I mean, I think to a degree, I think there are different levels. Like now, you're seeing like an explosion of it, and I think that it's like anything that ebbs and flows. So like early on, there was just like one fight here or there. Now there's like a bunch of different promotions and a ton of fights. And I think at some point that will go back, but I think it will always kind of be here. And remember, like, there's always been sort of this circus-like mentality in boxing, dating back to, Jack Johnson going to different towns and fighting like the local tough man. And so I think and dating back to like the tough man competitions and the celebrity boxing and all that stuff. So this has always existed in one way, shape, or form. Will it be this prevalent in 5 years? Maybe not, but will it be around? Yes. And so I think it will just kind of go like this, up, down, up, down. Right now, I think it's at a high. Does it stay that way? We'll see. I suspect, like anything, even in boxing and MMA, there's ebbs and flows. So it will likely go down at some point and then come back up. But I definitely think it's a thing, and you can't deny the fan base. And I think that as long as Jake Paul and KSI and those guys are still around, it'll always exist. If they leave abruptly within the next year, then maybe that changes. But as long as they're still around and active, then I think it will always be a thing.
Do you think it'll kind of be its own? You have boxing, UFC, and Misfits, its own kind of separate branch almost.
No, I kind of put
Not as
that
big,
under the
but not as big,
yeah,
but
yeah.
separate.
I still put that under the boxing umbrella,
Mhm.
even though it's a different kind of boxing. I don't view, influencer boxing or misfits or MVP, whatever, as its own entity or sport. I just view them as a different kind of promotion under that big umbrella.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, to be fair. I can see where you're coming from. But for yourself though, for your kind of skill of interviewing, I always noticed that whatever the situation is, you always kept your cool. You never raised your voice, you never got excited. You always kind of kept your cool and kept your tone. I think, example, I was on TikTok earlier and one popped up with you and Khabib, where he was like, I texted you and you got your phone out, you showed it. There was no rush. It kind of showed your years of experience. Does that just
Yeah.
come you naturally? Does that develop in time? Kind of keeping your cool? And because obviously people criticized you quite a bit in the past, but you've managed to explain yourself every time and show people the full story.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think part of it is just my personality. Like I'm a pretty even keel type of guy. Um, and then part of it is like you want to act professional, right? You don't want to be too emotional. There are times where it's okay to be emotional, and there are other times where it's not okay. And in those moments, I don't think it's okay. Um, and ultimately, like I've always kind of felt in control and confident and sure of myself in those moments. And so, like in the Khabib case, when he says like I didn't text you, but like I did, so here all I have to do is show you. Um, so I've never really felt like I needed to get too emotional or flustered or anything like that. It's just a matter of, reps, right? It's like any athlete, a football player, a basketball player. Like what do? They have to shoot 10,000 shots and then they only kind of get rolling. And so if you compare me now to me in 2007, 2008, I'm obviously a lot more refined now, but I still don't think I'm that good. I've done 2 interviews today, Fred, and I kid you not, I hated both of them. And I think after each one of them, I'm like, I sucked. I fucked up here. Sorry, apologize for swearing. You can bleep that out. I messed up here. I messed up there. Why did I say this? Why did I say that? I don't know if I'll ever have the perfect show or interview. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's like the engine that keeps me going, but I've never quite felt like I've gotten it. So even those moments are great, but I could tell you about 10 other things in those interviews that I felt like I didn't get. Maybe not, me getting emotional, but just like me screwing up or not delivering the way in which I should. So it's all a work in progress, and it's all about reps. The more you do something, the more comfortable you are.
How often is the interviews you did today? Can you say who they were with?
Yeah, they won't mean anything to you because they were for my basketball podcast. So, it's two basketball pundits.
Oh, okay, okay.
Are you a
But
basketball fan?
no.
There you go.
I think that's good. I guess you're branching out as well. But for a certain interview, like for my old interviews, when I used to have like a whole page of notes, a list of questions, and now
Yeah.
it's mainly I start off with like one or two questions I'm curious about, but it's just a conversation. It's just all top of my head. I guess that's the style you go for. How do you know when to do loads of research, and how do you plan your interviews nowadays after all the years' experience you've got?
Yeah, so that's the way in which I do it. Like early on when I was in college, I would literally write the questions down, and then I realized very, very early that that was a horrible thing to do because then you're not listening, right? Um, like if you and I were going to get a coffee or something, I wouldn't come with a sheet of questions. How was your day? Okay, question two. Okay, like you talk, you listen, you ask follow-ups, and listening is probably the most important thing that you could do, right? It's the biggest thing because you'll say something, and if you're fixated on that next question, but you say something in the final seconds of your answer, I may miss it because I'm thinking about the next question, and now all of a sudden, I'm completely blowing by something that could be huge. Like you could say, and then, I jumped off a bridge. And I'm like, all right, so tell me about your childhood, not even listening to that. You know what I mean? So people don't listen enough. And so it depends on the kind of interviews I'm doing. Like if I'm doing an interview with someone that I know nothing about, then I'll obviously do a lot of research, but I'll never show up with a sheet of questions. I'll never have that in my hands because I feel like that's a crutch and you look down, even notes. When I do the show, I don't have any questions written down. I hardly have anything on my screen. Like I'll have their Wikipedia page up just in case I forget about something, but there's nothing else there. So it's a matter of being prepared. It's a matter of being ready. It's a matter of being well researched. But ultimately, like you have to just be confident with the knowledge, and you have to be prepared to listen. Like if someone walked into this room right now that I knew very little about, let's say, I know who my son is a big Phil Foden fan. You know Phil Foden of Man City.
Well, I live in Manchester in England, so yeah.
Are
Film,
you a City fan?
no, I don't follow football.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'm
My
the only
kids are
English person who doesn't follow football.
wow, at all? No interest?
Well, when I was younger, I did, but now, no.
All right. Well, you know who Phil Foden is, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I only know who he is because my son is a fan of his. But if he walked into this room right now, I feel confident that I can conduct like a 30-minute interview with him just by asking him questions and then listening and then like working off of that, right?
Mm,
So you're right to not write questions down. And it's okay to have a couple of maybe like words on your screen if you want just to trigger a question. But ultimately, if you're well researched and you know about the subject, you don't have to have anything written down.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I guess it's funny when well, now I watch other interviewers, I can kind of not critique them, but I can see where they're going wrong, or I can see. I'm sure now when you're doing this interview with me, you can think, okay, Fred needs to do this different. He's doing that well, and needs to switch this up. So I guess it's quite interesting after a while doing it. But is that bookshelf behind you? Is that real or is that fake?
What do you think?
Fake. It's too flat.
It's too flat. Look, there's a
Yeah.
lot. There's shadow right over here.
Take one of the books out.
Sure. No,
Wow,
it's
so
a
it
screen.
is.
It's a screen.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
It's a TV. Actually, one time I was on Sports Center on ESPN, and the screensaver came on in the middle. Like I could change the background here. I have there you go. So you have a different one, but this one has black on the side. So this one I found. I just like the lighting, and it kind of looks real. Although who would have this many books in their house? This is like a proper library,
Mm.
but it just kind of works for the setup that I have here.
It looks good. It looks very tidy.
Thank
Um,
you.
but for yourself though, how long do you see yourself doing the MMA hour for? Kind of staying involved in mixed martial arts. When is
You trying to get rid of me, huh?
when no when do you
Wow.
No, 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 no. Oh, it really does that, doesn't it? No, 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 not at all. When do you put your feet up? When do you have a day's rest?
Oh man, never. Like today, like I said, I was doing the other show. I really like to work and I love to interview people. If I could interview people for the rest of my life until I'm done, I'd be a very, very happy man. And the toughest part about the interviews are just the guest booking. Like since 2009, I've been doing the MMA Hour or some variation of it. It was called something else at ESPN. I booked every single guest in the history of the show. So the same way you reached out to me for this, I've done the same with every single guest. And there's usually 4 or 5 guests per episode these days. So that gets a little bit tiresome. But doing the actual show and the interview, I love doing. So I think eventually, um, it will evolve maybe into something else. I don't know if the name, the MMA Hour, will remain forever because the truth is, like, I like other things. I'll always be involved in MMA in some capacity, but I like like last week I had um, who would have had? I think we had Eddie Hearn on, but there was a boxer. Oh, we had Lee Wood on Wednesday, and then I had Hulk Hogan on, and I had an MMA fighter on. Like I had a boxer, a pro wrestling legend, an MMA fighter, and I kind of like that as well. So I don't want it to be all over the place. But maybe if it's like a combat type of show, or maybe if it's just like people know what they're getting from an Ariel Hawani show, that's okay. Maybe it just evolves into the Ariel Hawani show. Who knows? But for now, it works. It's perfect. And I mean, the whole thing is kind of a misnomer anyway. The show isn't an hour. We don't just talk about MMA. So who the hell knows, what remains? But at least for now, it's going to stay the way it is.
Do you think there'll be a moment, I don't know, when you're like 70, 80, you think, I'm not had enough, you think, okay, I want a long holiday now. I want to retire. Do you ever have that moment or just go to the very end?
No, for sure. I think about that moment all the time,
Oh, really?
even now. Yes. One of my great memories was when I left ESPN in June of 2021 and I took 2 months off, and that was like unheard of for me. I told everyone that I signed with, I was like, um, yeah, I'm not coming back until August. But I will say that was like a big moment for me too because I've always been afraid of going away for a long time. Even like taking a week once I'm in the thick of it, I needed that for my mental health. But like now that I'm in the thick of it, I hate missing a single episode. I missed an episode yesterday because it was Memorial Day here in the United States, and I'm always afraid that people are going to forget me or go somewhere else and not come back. And so I'm a little bit of a psycho when it comes to that. But no, honestly, and I've asked people a similar question. Like, I just want to make it to 70, 80 and be proud of what I did. And so if I could last 40 more years, that would be incredible. If I can remain healthy, that would be incredible. I don't take anything for granted. I just want to be here and have some kind of impact, some kind of legacy. People remember me and remember the work and have good memories. And I could be an escape for people. Because there's a lot of crap out there and there's a lot of negativity and a lot of toxicity. And if I could be that, that thing that you're going on a run or a walk or going to bed and you put my show on and it makes you happy, or makes you forget about your day, then that to me is the best compliment.
Certainly, yeah. That's quite a good way to put it. You brought up Eddie Hearn earlier. I was meant to ask you a question about Eddie Hearn in the beginning, but I completely forgot. I interviewed Eddie Hearn, I think about 2 years ago, and I think I asked him the question, and I said, I can't remember how I phrased it. So 2 years is a long time, but I was saying it's somewhere on the lines of when you promote a fighter's debut and then you see them retire, does it ever make you feel old? Does it ever make you kind of take a step back and be like, wow, what they've accomplished? But for yourself, we'll use Conor McGregor for example. Before or just after he made his UFC debut, you had him on your show, and now you just interviewed him very, very recently. Does it ever make you take like a deep breath almost, kind of his journey and what you've seen it all unveil, and you've been there from the very start? For any fighter, I guess you've interviewed at the beginning of their career and in their final fight.
Oh man, what a great question. Kudos to you, really. That is a beautiful question because I've talked about this. It makes me very emotional because there were guys early in my career who gave me the time of day, who would speak to me, who would come back on the show when they were coming up and I was coming up and I was a nobody and they were trying to make a name for themselves. And now those guys, like this is the era right now, those guys are retiring, right? Like the Carlos Condits of the world. The Demetrius Johnson is approaching the end of his career. The Uriah Fabers of the world, the Dominic Cruzes of the world, the George St. Pierre's of the world, the Michael Bispings of the world. And so every time one of those guys says goodbye, I get super emotional because first of all, like I have a bit of like survivor's guilt in that like, oh, I get to continue and they don't. That doesn't seem fair. And then I think about like, the beginning and them giving me time and the memories and the events and the cities and the arenas. And it was just a different time back then, and very, very emotional. So that's why I'll always keep that era very, like, no matter what happens for the next 40 years, that sort of 2006 to 2000, I don't know, 20 era, if you will always be very special to me. The Diaz brothers, guys like that, Rampage, all those guys who like just were there when I wanted to talk to them, when I needed to talk to them, always giving me time. So yes, 1,000%. Connor, I'm not really in that mode right now because I still think he has some fighting left and he's kind of still in the midst of it. But the guys who, once you see them say goodbye, Chael, Daniel Cormier, I could go on and on. Um, I definitely feel very, very sad and very nostalgic. And I don't know if it'll be the same. Like for a guy that I meet today who will retire in 10 years, I don't know if it'll be the same because, and maybe I'll be wrong, but when you start off and you're young and you're fresh and you don't know anyone and certain people take, the time to speak to you and all that, you never forget that. And you always appreciate that.
Is there a fighter that sticks out to you at all in all of that mix?
Man, it's impossible to pick one because there was just a whole bunch of them that gave me the time. So like the guys that I mentioned, Faber and Rampage and Dustin Poirier and Daniel Cormier, obviously, and Chael Sonnen, like all those dudes from that era, George St. Pierre. I don't want to forget anyone, but just like all those guys really mean a lot to me. Very, very special to me.
Certainly. I guess it makes you feel a little bit old as well after the whole careers
Well,
happen.
Fred, why you gotta talk about the old thing, man? I'm still a young cat in this game. I'm still getting
No,
started.
no,
I
you're
don't.
looking good. You're looking good. You're looking
Ah,
good.
come on, Fred. Jeez Louise. It's like the third old reference so far. When's your birthday?
May 10th, it just happened.
Oh, happy birthday. So you just turned 19?
Yeah, yeah. It was in the Misfits fight week. It was at the public workout.
2004?
Yes.
It's crazy. That's when I graduated like May 7th, 2004 from university. How about that?
Wow. So I wasn't even around then. That's mad.
Mhm. Freaking legend. Unbelievable. And you're doing what you're doing now, and I'm the old guy that you're talking to. This is crazy. Listen, one day you're going to be the old guy, just for the
Never. I
record.
don't. I
So,
don't think it'll ever happen, Ariel. I can't imagine it.
all right. You remember this. It's going to happen soon. There's going to be another kid who says, "Oh, I watched you. You're the old guy. What does it feel like?" You'll see, and you'll remember me.
Whoa! You made it
Yeah.
like that. That's funny. So when you were like 19, could you imagine being like 30, 40? Could you imagine it? Or was it like impossible in your brain?
You know what's weird? I kind of feel like I'm 19 right now.
Really?
Like it, and you ever hear people say that, like, "Oh, I still feel like I'm 18 or whatever," and you're like, "Yeah, that's stupid." No, it's true. Like I still look through the same eyes, right, the same lens, and you don't really notice yourself changing, other than when you look at pictures. But man, it's true. Everything that everyone says about life, and I'm really in a mode now where I'm trying to appreciate life and enjoy the journey, and not, I'm a very anxious, intense person, so I tend to like not really um, smell the flowers and sweat the small stuff. And I've been trying to do that more and trying to be very grateful and appreciative and not get too high, not get too down, but just be very happy. And I'm very, very thankful. I don't know if you'd be talking to me right now as a guy who's working in his 40s if I didn't have kids, because my kids gave me like great balance and perspective. I was too obsessed and too intense when it came to my work. And when you have young kids who need you, who want to do things, who want to play, who want to do this, that, who need you to take them places, like you can't be thinking about it 24/7. That's very unhealthy. And I was like that before I had kids. So they've helped me out tremendously. And I don't know if I am even still around doing this if I didn't have the kids.
Okay, well, that's really interesting then. So did it make it kind of go a little bit softer almost on the inside in the business environment
1000%.
like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right?
1000%. But also, like, it gave me balance. You know what I mean? Like, you need balance. You need hobbies. You need to do other things. Um, you need to be forced to not be so selfish, right? Because, like, when you're just, thinking about yourself, your career, all that, like, it becomes intoxicating. And especially with the phones and the social media and the YouTube and the promotion and this and that, like, you can become obsessed with it. And so if I can give you any advice, don't become obsessed with it. Don't like be obsessed with being the best that you can be, outworking everyone, but find things that you can do, find outlets, find hobbies, find escapes. That's very important.
But isn't there a level of selfishness you have to commit to yourself to be successful though? So where do you find that right balance? Where do you draw the line, Ariel?
Yeah, everyone has a different line, right? So I've talked to Eddie Hearn about this, and I'm like, do you ever miss your kids, whatever, like, because the guy's away all the time, and he's like, yeah, I've just come to terms with that. I don't want to come to terms with that. Like, I want to be at my kids' soccer game, so I had to like readjust my schedule, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make my show so successful and popular was, oh, if I make this a thing, I don't have to travel to all the events. I don't actually like traveling. Like, I like traveling to the big events, but not like every single weekend. So it's just everyone has their own line, and my line is pretty good where it's at now. Um, you'll hopefully realize this one day. Like, you don't get those moments back with your kids when they're young, and so I don't wanna love that. I see you staring at the clock over there, so I'm trying to keep my answers short. Is that what you're
No, no,
staring
no.
at?
I'm not saying. I'm basically. I have my laptop here. My phone is
Yeah.
just above it. I have my little
Oh,
iPhone. It's here. Look, that's. And then here's my
I see
laptop.
it.
You
But you
are
see,
there.
oh, there I am. Hello.
Look at that
Like,
setup. It's very, very
that
minimalist.
is a set. Where is this? Is this at your parents' house?
No, no. I move out. I got a place for a couple of mates up here.
Look at you. Wow. In Manchester?
Yes.
And do they work in this world too, or you do your own thing?
One's a bartender, and the other works on like a phone helpline. They're both quite young as well, my age, around my age.
Okay. Do they think you have the coolest job?
You'll have to ask them.
Okay.
They've
All
seen it
right.
all involved, so I guess they're kind of more kind of toned down to it. They're kind of used to me saying, "Oh, I've got to be up at this time to interview this person."
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
but I'm cautious of the time. There's about 8 minutes left on the clock here.
Yes, sure, 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 sure.
We've got three more questions left. I think I was going to pick you up on this earlier when you were saying about celebrating and the success. But in the position you're in, after doing it for so long, having so many big wins, do you still find you celebrate the small wins as well?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Because I don't really feel like any of them are big wins, to be honest. Like, I have a lot of things that I have moments where I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe this happened. I still have that, and so I hope that I never lose that. Um, but just like last week, like, oh, Hulk Hogan was on my show. Like, that's crazy. How the hell did that happen? Or getting to do the Katie Taylor fight for DAZN. Like, what? That's nuts. Or covering WrestleMania for BT Sport or whatever it is. So I really, you're catching me in a time where I'm very much reflective, and I'm very much appreciative and grateful. And so I try to, at least for a minute, say like, that was awesome. But then I'm always like, okay, what's next? How do we top this? That's part of my, like, my sickness. I'm like, how do I do better? How do I top this? How do I one up this? All that stuff. I'm a bit insane when it comes to that, but yes, absolutely. And that's very important as well. We only get one life, Fred. We have to appreciate these moments.
Well, I've always thought of it the way is like I guess when you walk, I was out earlier, just going to the shop, and I see a kid in a wheelchair, and I think kind of how lucky I am to be able to live my life to its full max. Where the kid in a wheelchair is more limited, and where I'm got two legs, two arms, I'm breathing. I might as well live life to the max and do everything you possibly can do in the time you're given. Just go at
Amen.
100 miles an hour. Because at one point, you all kids, you all have to be like, okay, I can't work as much, or I've got other things, I've got other kind of possibilities that are happening around. You got to take time to. But I'm gonna be selfish right now because I know we got 6 minutes left. I could talk to you for hours, but if you and me in my position, what would your next steps be? What would you do? I'm really, really curious. I need some help.
What do you need help for? You're doing just fine.
I still worry a lot though, Ariel. I still worry a lot.
What do you worry about?
Not being successful and not working hard enough, not working if I am hard, not worrying if I'm not working hard enough.
First
You
of all, you have, I would say, like a 6 year head start on everyone, if not more. Meaning, even if you don't realize whatever potential that you think you should be realizing right now, all this is gravy. No one starts at 16, let alone 19, let alone 21, 22. So like, you're already well ahead of the game. I don't say this lightly. You ask very thoughtful and genuine questions. You have a very, very unique but endearing delivery. I wouldn't change a thing about you, and I wouldn't worry one bit. You are going to be very, very successful. And I'm not just saying this because I would just keep this to myself if I didn't believe it. You have zero to worry about, and easy for me to say because I do this as well. You are doing yourself a disservice if you are worrying too much about what's next or the future and all that stuff. Just enjoy this, man. I see the way KSI talks to you, Logan Paul talks to you, all these guys talk to you. They give you time, they give you their, honest answers, they have fun with you. That's a level of comfort and admiration as well. And even I don't do a lot of these interviews too, but I know who you are because I've seen your stuff and I've been very impressed with your stuff. So nothing to worry about. Just keep doing you, keep building, keep being professional, keep being sincere, keep being authentic, keep being grateful. Keep showing up. 80% of success is just showing up. Continue to show up, continue to show up, continue to show up, and you'll be just fine.
I appreciate it, Ariel. I do. I know I say I appreciate it a lot, but that does mean the world. And you are number one, so I listen to everything you say. Thank you, Ariel. I won't worry at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. anymore in the morning. Thank you.
No, don't do that. And I'm very happy to be on, and I'm happy to come on in the future. And like I would just say, don't don't let it get to your head. Don't believe your own hype. Don't like be intoxicated by the love and all that stuff. If you keep showing up and you keep working hard and you keep remaining humble, like the sky's the limit for you, man. Honestly. And you have a very um, loyal and passionate fan base, and that's a hard thing to develop in this day and age. And they really back you, and that's another hard thing to get. So yeah, you have nothing to worry about. You're going to be just fine, and I can't wait for the Fred Beck show. That's going to be tremendous. You're going to be interviewing all kinds of actors and pop stars and stuff. Tremendous. Maybe the Spice
Everyone,
Girls will come on.
into everyone. You can come on if you're lucky, Ariel.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm joking. Awesome, Ariel. That's amazing. Thank you. That piece is great.